The first thing she noticed wasn't the cold. It was the silence that came after. The kind of silence that doesn't belong in a busy city. The kind that feels like something has been taken away. Lena Brooks stood frozen on the sidewalk, her gloved hands trembling around a paper cup that had already gone lukewarm. Just moments ago, the street had been alive. Car horns, footsteps, distant laughter, but now everything felt suspended, like the world had paused to witness what had just happened. A man lay on the pavement a few feet away. People had gathered, of course. They always did. A loose circle of strangers, drawn in by curiosity but held back by hesitation. Some whispered. Some stared. A few pretended not to notice at all. No one moved. Lena felt it, the invisible line that everyone else seemed unwilling to cross. Her heart pounded. Don't get involved. That voice came uninvited, shaped by years of watching, scrolling, hearing stories about things going wrong when people tried to help. It was safer to stay back, safer to wait for someone else. But no one else was moving. The man didn't look dangerous. He looked ordinary. Mid-40s maybe, a worn jacket, work boots, his face pale against the concrete, his chest rising just barely. Someone muttered, probably drunk. Another said, an ambulance is coming. But no one checked. No one knelt. No one reached out. And something inside Lena tightened in a way she couldn't ignore. Before she could talk herself out of it, she stepped forward. Hey, she said softly, her voice steadier than she felt. Can you hear me? No response. Her pulse spiked. She knelt beside him, the cold seeping through her jeans instantly. Up close, she could see the faint sheen of sweat on his forehead, the uneven rhythm of his breathing. This wasn't someone sleeping it off. This was something else. Call 911, she said, louder this time, glancing up at the crowd. A man shrugged. I think someone already did. I need someone to make sure, Lena insisted, her voice cutting through the hesitation. A young woman fumbled with her phone. I'll call. Thank you. Lena turned back to the man. Stay with me, okay? You're not alone. She didn't know if he could hear her, but saying it felt important. His hand twitched slightly, and she gently held it, surprised by how cold it felt. What's your name? She whispered. No answer. Around her, the crowd shifted. A few people stepped closer now, curiosity giving way to something else. Uncertainty, maybe even guilt. Does anyone know first aid? Lena asked. Silence. Of course. Her mind raced. She wasn't a doctor. She wasn't trained for this. She was just someone who had stepped forward. But sometimes that had to be enough. Hey, she said again more firmly now, you're going to be okay. She didn't know if that was true. But she needed him to hear it. Minutes stretched like hours. Then finally, sirens. Relief washed over her so suddenly it almost made her dizzy. The crowd parted as paramedics rushed in, efficient and focused. What happened? One of them asked. I'm not sure, Lena said, stepping back but not letting go of the man's hand just yet. He collapsed. He was barely responsive. The paramedic nodded, already checking vitals, issuing quick instructions to his partner. You did the right thing, he said without looking up. Those words hit her harder than she expected. She hadn't thought of it that way. She had just acted. As they worked, Lena finally released the man's hand, her fingers lingering for a moment before pulling away. They loaded him onto a stretcher, securing him quickly. Wait, Lena said, surprising herself again. The paramedic looked at her. Will he be okay? A pause. Honest, but not unkind. We're going to do everything we can. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was something. As the ambulance doors closed, Lena stood there, the cold suddenly rushing back in around her. The crowd began to disperse, the moment dissolving as quickly as it had formed. Life resumed. Cars moved. Conversations restarted. People walked away, but Lena didn't. She couldn't. Not yet. 3 days later, she still couldn't stop thinking about him. It was ridiculous, she told herself. She didn't even know his name. People collapsed in cities every day. Life moved on. She should move on too. But every time she tried, she saw his face again. Pale, still, alone. Not alone, she corrected herself. You were there. That thought didn't bring comfort. It brought responsibility. On the 4th day, she found herself standing outside the hospital. She almost laughed at herself. What are you doing? This was too much, too personal, too strange, but her feet carried her inside anyway. At the front desk, she hesitated before speaking. "Hi," she said, her voice quieter now. "I'm looking for someone. I don't know his name, but he was brought in a few days ago. He collapsed on Maple Street." The receptionist looked at her, assessing. "That's not a lot to go on." "I know," Lena said quickly. I helped him. I wanted to know if he's okay." Something in her tone must have landed because the receptionist softened slightly. "Let me check." A few moments later, she looked up. "Daniel Carter?" Lena exhaled. "Yes, that might be him." "He's still here," she said. "Room 214. Lena's heart skipped. He was alive. "Can I visit?" The receptionist gave a small nod. Briefly. Lena made her way down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. What if he didn't remember? What if he did? She reached the door and paused, her hand hovering before she finally knocked gently. "Come in," a voice called. It was weak, but unmistakably alive. Lena pushed the door open. The man from the sidewalk, Daniel, lay in the hospital bed, looking thinner somehow, but awake. His eyes met hers, curious. "Hi," Lena said, suddenly unsure. I think we met a few days ago." He studied her for a moment, then something flickered in his expression. "You," he said slowly. "You were there." Relief flooded her. "Yeah." "You didn't walk away." It wasn't a question. Lena swallowed. "I couldn't." A quiet moment passed between them. "They told me," Daniel said, his voice steadying. "If no one had stepped in, if no one had noticed." He trailed off, shaking his head slightly. "I might not be here." The weight of that settled over her. She hadn't thought that far ahead. She hadn't let herself. "You would have," she said softly. "Someone else would have helped." Daniel gave a faint smile. "Maybe," he said, "but you didn't wait to find out." Lena looked down, her hands twisting together. "I almost did," she admitted. "I almost stayed back like everyone else." "But you didn't." "No," she said. "I didn't." Another pause. Then Daniel reached out his hand, not weak this time, but deliberate. "Thank you." 2 simple words, but they carried everything. Lena took his hand, her grip gentle but sure. "You don't have to thank me," she said. "I do," he replied. "Because what you did, it reminded me of something." "What?" "That people still care," he said, "even when it doesn't look like it." Lena felt her throat tighten. Because he was right. It hadn't looked like it that day. Not at first. But sometimes all it took was one person to step forward, one person to break the silence, one person to remind everyone else who they could be. She smiled, a warmth spreading through her that had nothing to do with the room. "Get better," she said softly. "I will," Daniel replied. "Thanks to you." As she left the hospital, the world felt different somehow. Not bigger, not brighter, just kinder. And as she stepped back out onto the busy street, she noticed something she hadn't before. People weren't just passing by. They were watching, noticing, existing together in ways that were easy to overlook. Maybe the world hadn't changed. Maybe it was always like this, messy, complicated, uncertain, but full of moments, small, quiet moments, where someone could choose to care. Lena pulled her coat tighter around her and started walking, her steps lighter now, because she knew something she hadn't known before. Kindness doesn't need permission. It doesn't wait for certainty. It doesn't ask if someone else will go first. It just steps forward. And sometimes that's enough to save a life.